Good morning and welcome to a Celtic State of Mind. It's match day. This is your pre-match coverage. It is Rangers against Celtic at Ibrox. It's what many have called one of the biggest games of our season so far in terms of what it means. I'm Chris McAvoy and I'm hosting today in place of Paul John Dykes, who is, of course, at Barrows Art and Design doing the fan zone today. Hopefully there's a good atmosphere there. It's not the best weather for it. Anyone that's in Glasgow and around will know exactly what I mean by that. Hopefully, I will be joined by Liam Carrigan. And in fact, just as I was about to say that, Liam has joined. So I'm going to bring Liam in and then we're going to talk all things the lineup, match preparation, and of course about the birthday boy today, Martin O'Neill. Many happy returns to him. Liam into the action. Hopefully, if that works. Liam, do I have you?
I can hear you, mate. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but we can't see you. So give me one second.
Here
there you are. There he is.
Lovely.
See the man's name. Does appear.
I forgot about that backward little ritual you have in Scotland called daylight savings time, and I thought the game wasn't kicking off for another hour.
Well, it's good to have you, and I do appreciate you joining. It's great to have our international colleagues on. Liam, I really just want to jump straight into it because there's a lot of talking points around the lineup today. So I'm going to bring the lineup up, and then we're going to get your thoughts. There's 2 or 3 areas I think we really need to focus on. A lot of speculation leading up to this game. So I am going to run through it. I'm going to run through it by looking at my phone because my eyesight is terrible these days. I hate getting older. So I'm going to try and see it here, but I'll give you the lineup and then we'll touch on 2 or 3 of the key positions today. So we have in goal Vimy Sinisalo. That's going to be one of the first areas we're going to touch on. We then have a back 4 of Araujo, Murray, Dane Murray getting the nod, Liam Scales and Kieran Tierney. In midfield, we have our captain, Callum McGregor. We then have the Oxlade-Chamberlain coming in, and we have Benji Negrin. Bit of debate around who would play in that midfield, so we'll touch on that as well. On the flanks, we have Yang and Maeda. Assume Yang will maybe take up the right with Maeda on the left. And then another talking point up top, and this has been a matter of some debate, who would get the nod in the striker position? And the manager's plumped for Adamu. On the bench, that gives us Ross Doohan, Thomas Chanchvara, McCowan, Tenekte, Sarachi, Hatate, Benji Arthur, Forrest and Donovan. So lots of different areas to discuss there. But the one I want to focus on, first of all, Liam, is, of course, in goal. A lot of people calling for Vimy Sinisalo to get the nod. Fair to say that not many people thought that Martin O'Neill would take that, would you call it a gamble? Would certainly not take that decision. What's your thoughts? Is it the right call?
I think it is. I don't know how Martin arrived at that decision. If Casper really is feeling sick, then I hope he gets well soon. But that might just be a diplomatic one. I mean, we don't know. But what I would say is that having looked at Sinisalo's early career when he was at likes of Exeter and whatever, he's a bit of a penalty specialist. And when our opponents inevitably get the penalty, I'd rather have him in goals than Casper, to be quite honest, because Casper, I think, is a good goalkeeper, but penalty kicks, he's not that great.
I love it.
And he has a very obvious weakness, which Sinisalo doesn't. So,
yeah. I love it. We're getting the digs in early. The banter has started. It is, of course, Derby Day. That's brilliant. But no, you make a good point. And actually, I think Vimy Sinisalo, I was fortunate enough to go down to Celtic Park back in the days when we were allowed in. Let's not talk about anyone from Acsom getting to Celtic Park these days, but back when we were allowed in, I was fortunate enough to interview Vimy. Came across very, very well to me. Answered every question, very confident. Spoke about the requirements on a goalkeeper, understanding the expectations. He certainly didn't come across to me as someone who was just there to make up the numbers. I think he firmly had his eyes set on eventually taking on the number 1 jersey. So big opportunity for him today. I thought he performed very well midweek, did everything required. Sometimes you don't have to do the spectacular, you just have to do your job. So I was quite pleased to see him in today. But I agree with you. Obviously, thoughts with Casper. If he's not feeling too well, I hope he feels better soon. And could be that just a break takes a little bit of scrutiny off him because he is a quality goalkeeper, as we've always said. Okay, let's move on to the defence then, Liam. So I don't think there's too many surprises in the defence. I mean, Araujo, he's been something of a revelation since he came in. You're always worried about that gap, in the loss of a player like Alistair Johnson. We've had Donovan coming in, giving a really good account of himself. We've had Tony Ralston coming in. At different periods, maybe not having quite as much, an easy time of it. But Araujo's come in and he looks every bit the calibre of the type of player we want to bring in. And when you're coupling that with Kieran Tierney on the other side, you've got Mr. Dependable Liam Scales, looking for a solid game for him. The interesting one is Dane Murray. Some people were saying, maybe we should get Benjamin Arthur in there, but surely Murray, after his performance midweek, and the fact that he's probably the more experienced by some distance of the two. Right call for you on that one?
Yeah, I think so. I think just it's a day when people can step up and become heroes, and that could, games like this can be the making or breaking of you. And we'll go on to talk about the strike force in a minute, but I think that's also where there's an opportunity for somebody to step up today and make a name for themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. No, this is a time where you're looking for boys to become men and men to become heroes. In terms of the midfield, there was a lot of discussion, and anyone who watched the pre-match preview between Tino and Paul John yesterday, a lot of the discussion was around this enigmatic figure of Benji Negrin. He's a player who I think has got, it's around about, I think it's 18 goals, I think there's about 6 assists from midfield. He's not necessarily started every game, he's done some of that off the bench, but he's a player that divides opinion in terms of his work rate. A lot of people saying he's not your typical engine room type midfielder. But you can't argue with his numbers. And he seems to be a player who finds himself, even if it's just a half chance, he finds himself in a position where he can do some damage. And that's evident. Some people were talking about maybe Luke McCowan had done enough to earn a place, big engine room for him. But we've also had the luxury, I guess you could call it, of bringing Oxlade-Chamberlain back for this. We didn't have him for Europe. Means he's now, should be relatively fresh in terms of legs. A lot of experience in there alongside Callum McGregor. How's that midfield looking for you? Is that the 3 you would have plumped for, or would you have made any changes?
That's pretty much what I would have gone for. I'm reminded of back in the day when I had my season ticket at Celtic Park. One of the, sometimes you hear a guy shouting something for the crowd, and it's unintentionally one of the funniest things you hear that day. And Henrik Larsson had one of those games where he was not having a great game, but then he scored 2 goals in the final 5 minutes, right? And this guy behind me goes, Larsson, you're good for us bloody scoring goals. And I thought, well, maybe that's what we've got with Negrin, but you know what? I don't care if he ends up scoring the winner today. I'll be quite happy with that.
Absolutely. I think when it comes down to it, you're looking at the results, you're looking back at the stats. Not many people remember if he ran back 40 yards to make a tackle. They remember the fact he put the ball in the net. No, I think that's fair. I think that's a lot of people saying the same. I think the point is you can have a player like Negrin who maybe doesn't necessarily contribute so much to the defensive side of the game, but what you do have to have then is a dependency, and players able to step up to do that kind of engine room work, like Callum McGregor, like Oxlade-Chamberlain. And you're hoping that the experience there, they'll find themselves in the right position, they'll maybe, read the game well. And that allows a player like Negrin maybe to find himself heading up front. But let's talk about the forward line then. So I don't think there's too many surprises out on the wings. Yang and Maeda. Now, Maeda's obviously been under a bit of scrutiny, not necessarily hitting the levels or the heights that we want him to and that he has done previously. Yang, I think, on the other side, has actually started to step up. I thought he had a good game during the week. I thought one of the elements that stood out quite pleasantly from Yang was his ability to track back and make tackles and, really help the defensive side of the game, something that 6 months ago we were denigrating him for. Wasn't his strongest area. With Maeda, I think what you absolutely do get is you do get the energy. You do get a player who will track back. You do get a player who will, even if it doesn't necessarily always work, I don't think you can necessarily always fault the work rate and the effort with Maeda. And, we're going to rely on that today. So any concerns for you? Would you maybe have looked at Tenekte, who's, had some decent performances? Some he's been a little bit more anonymous, but do you think that's the right wing options that we went for today?
Well, I was talking to my dad about 20 minutes ago about this on the phone, thinking we still had an hour and a half until kick-off. And but just before he reminded me of the time, he said, yeah, the one, and I agreed with him, the one thing we were a wee bit concerned about was Dyson in for Tenekte, because on form, perhaps Tenekte should be there. Yeah. But I think it's purely down to the fear factor, right? He terrifies them. When Dyson is on form, he terrifies them. Yep. Their fullbacks just do not know what to do with him. So even a 60 or 70% Dyson performance today might be better or more effective than what we would get from a fully running Tenekte, maybe. And you've still got the option of Tinecti as an impact player on the second half if we're chasing the game. So
yes, indeed. Yeah, I think a great point. Sometimes I think certain players who they just become more effective when they're coming on against maybe slightly tired legs or a team that's forced to make changes. Right, we're going to get to the next big talking point then, and just want to bring in the first comment here from Alexander. If Yang and Maeda turn up and feed Adamu, then we win easy. Oh, I love that confidence. But let's talk about the front man then. We have gone for Junior Adamu. Now, got an assist during the week, puts himself about, has, still got a fair amount to prove to, I think, the supporters, but it's very, very early in his career, Liam. I'm always a fan of saying, if a player's done something well, if they're on confidence, keep the momentum, keep the consistency, keep them in the team. A lot of people saying, well, Schwanschwara's come in, done pretty well. And I thought Tino actually made a really good point yesterday. And I want to get, I was listening to it this morning when I was out walking the dog in the rain, but I thought it was a really good point. Schwanschwara he holds the ball up well, he's physical, he moves into good positions, but he doesn't necessarily strike you as a natural goal scorer, like a natural finisher. I think his work rate's good. I think he does contribute to the team, but he doesn't look like that guy that's going to, as you say, do a Larson and get you 2 or 3 goals a game. He looks like he'll feed and help the play. Adamu, maybe slightly more, direct, a bit more offensive. What's your thoughts? Do you think this is a smart move from Martin?
No, I'm gonna date myself here with a comparison. But if you think of it this way, like looking back to when we grew up in the early 90s and things were not so good, Schwanschwara strikes me as more of a Mark Hateley type, whereas Adamu is more of an Ali McCoy's type. In the terms of one's a physical presence, but might not get as many goals, whereas the other one's a good stick the ball in the net, man.
Just because I got shiver when you mentioned those names, by the way.
I'm sorry. I apologise for especially on the Sabbath saying such unholy names. I do apologise. But yeah, no, it was it was just the quickest comparison I could think of, because McCoy did get a lot more goals than Hateley did back in the day. And I think in the fullness of time, if Schwanschwara does stick around beyond this season, we're going to need to play him as part of a front two to get the most out of him, because he is one of those guys that's going to be like winning headers and knocking it down for a smaller striker, like could be Adamu, could be somebody else to run onto. I don't think he's going to be your like you say, your 30 goals a season man. I think he'll be 15 to 20 possibly, but he might set up the same number again for somebody else. Yeah, absolutely. No, I think that makes sense. No, great. So interesting to get some comments in, see what people are going to say. I'm liking this bit of positivity coming through. Actually, I like this from Nirvana Seattle. Adamu could be the new Hunskill. Yeah, I mean, listen, the opportunity is there. There's opportunity there. Other people maybe being a little bit more, pragmatic. Neither Adamu nor Schwanschwara are good enough. Well, I think, as Liam has rightly said, this is where sometimes boys can become men can become heroes. So there is an opportunity there. Scorpion Rising comes in to say need an early goal. Yeah. I mean, well, listen, we got one during the week, so and we are coming off a decent result across, certainly in the match, not necessarily across the tie. But looking back at the match midweekly, that was a game where we didn't go into it with any great expectations that we were going to win the tie. We knew we were up against it. It was very much about trying to restore a little bit of dignity, a little bit of respect, win the match more so than the tie. And actually, I think we've done that. And one of the things you do with that, even though we're out of Europe, right, that's fair enough. We don't think we ever felt we were best positioned for Europe. But you come into this game today, which I think it's fair to say a large portion of our support felt was a far more important game. Yeah.
And you're taking in just a little bit of momentum. You're taking in a goal from Luke McCowan, who's obviously on the bench today. You're taking in an assist from Adamu. That's a goal and an assist to his name so far. We're looking for him to, continue playing well. You're bringing in a little bit, good confidence from Sinisalo and Murray, who both had good games. I think, so that's a good thing to take into a game like this. But how important for you is mentality going to be today? Because there are a few newish names in the lineup. Oxlade Chamberlain, he's played in some, hell of a big games, big competition, big leagues, for, similarly big clubs, but he's probably never faced what he's going to face today, let's be honest.
No, look, I'm glad that Oxlade Chamberlain's in there, particularly, because that is a guy whose football brain is going to probably get us out of a few scrapes today, I think. He's really his intelligence is going to show. Well, let's face it, an educationally subnormal person's intelligence would show at Ibrox. But anyway, I digress. Apologies to any educationally subnormal people who are watching.
It's a banter.
I'm getting them in early while I'm in a good mood, right?
It's all good humor. It's all banter.
But no, I think that we're going to really rely on his experience today, and him and McGregor. That's two old heads getting in there. That McGregor knows what this is all about. Oxlade-Chamberlain hasn't played this game before, but he's played the Liverpool derby. He's played in the bloody Champions League final. You can't get any bigger than that. He's played for England in all kinds of places. I think he's not going to be fazed by an Ibrox where the locals will turn on them if they go a goal down in 5 minutes. And that is where the early goal that we talked about before is absolutely crucial, because having the game at Ibrox can be their biggest advantage or their biggest enemy, depending on how things start. Because if that crowd gets their back up and gets angry at them, it can terrify the home team as much as any opponent. So I really think that is hit them early and hit them hard. And I think we could be onto something today.
Absolutely. Bringing this comment from Regina Munns. Chris, are you saying there's no derby matches equivalent to the Glasgow derby in England? It's exactly what I'm saying, Regina, but I'm obviously biased, so I do want to caveat with that. I'm absolutely biased. I personally quite enjoy watching English football for all the criticism it gets for being bloated and overpaid and that kind of thing. I actually quite enjoy watching some of the big games in England. I'm a football fan, but yeah, I'm also completely biased. I'm a Glasgow boy, and I'll always back this game as over the rest. Jimmy Boy comes in to say, which is quite a good point, the Ox plays the ball at a higher level than any Rangers player. He can be the catalyst. Well, that's what you hope, right? Yes. That's why that's absolutely why, okay, look, we've spoken about our recruitment to death. I'm not going to labour that today. We might do it at the end of the match if it's not going well, but at the moment, I think what I'd rather do is focus on the positives. And you're right, when you bring in a player like Oxlade-Chamberlain, you're bringing in pedigree. You're bringing in experience. We've done it in the past. We've done it with an Aaron Moy. I think you could maybe label the same thing with Scott Sinclair, for example, maybe a guy whose career maybe many people thought was kind of on the downturn, but look what he did. He came in. Oxlade-Chamberlain, I don't think a guy's got anything left to prove, but he'll not feel that. He'll want to come in and say, well, this is maybe the next big challenge in my career. So you hope that actually, he can have that, he can absolutely have that effect. I like Paul Bossas comes in to say, usually a frantic start to these encounters. Hopefully the Ox can calm things down. Callum needs to line up to against the run. Well, maybe, the benefit, Paul, would be that the Oxlade-Chamberlain, he actually comes in and he takes a little bit of that pressure off McGregor, because McGregor's not only carrying the importance of his role positionally, he's carrying the role of the captain. Liam, he's a player that, he comes under a bit of scrutiny. I think when you wear the armband, that happens. It's natural. He has one bad game. I think the team does suffer around him when he doesn't play well. But you look at his numbers over the last few seasons, you look at how the team plays when he is on the game, and he'll know better than anyone what it means today. He'll want to be up for this. And I think if we get a good performance for the captain, I think we've got a really good chance today. I mean, how important in your mind is Callum McGregor to this team?
I think it's crucial. I think he's absolutely crucial. I think genuinely, it's a cliche to say it, but I honestly think the game is won and lost today in the midfield. Yep. If Oxlade-Chamberlain and McGregor assert themselves early, take a grip of the midfield, put that wee runt Raskin in his place, I think that's where we could go on and win the game. And the thing is, we'll know within the first 10, 15 minutes if that's going to happen. And I think a couple of people have said it in the comments as well. Cal Mack needs to keep the heat today as well, because he has picked up a few cheap early bookings against that mob in the past. And don't, as we've learned in recent weeks, do not give the referees even an opportunity to penalise you, right?
That's going to be key, yeah.
So, especially with, we all know who today's referee is and his past. Personally, I think it's more down to him just being a god-awful referee rather than actually being particularly biased for one side or the other. We all know who he supports, but I don't think he actually tries too hard to favour them. I think he's just a rotten referee generally. So, yeah.
And we acknowledge it's not an easy job, especially in this country.
True.
But look, yeah, I think you're right. Whether it's through incompetence or anything otherwise, and I'm not want to be viewed as paranoid, but I think you're right. Let's take the decisions out of the hands of the officials as much as we can. If we can get our performance sorted, remove that element as much as you can, so it doesn't influence the result. Get another comment in here. This is Jay's face, and look, there is a reason for this. It says Paul John Dykes in the PJD in the director's box. No, he's not, right? But what I do want to say, and I know there's been a lot going back and forward on this now. I've tried my best to add context and got a fair amount of abuse for it as well. I wasn't there, by the way, so I wasn't the fifth man. But it's great that people are actually starting to see it for what it was, and can take a little bit of humour in it. The point is, it wasn't even the director's box; it was a corporate box, by the way. So just clarify that. But what's been really nice is we've actually seen people come out with a bit of a common sense view, certainly in the days after the immediate 48 hours where the abuse was quite bad. Look, whatever you think, please understand that, we're too quick to condemn people for doing things that I think as all human beings we would do. So, we're all Celtic fans at the end of the day. If optics aren't looking good, you know what? Half the people will see me wearing this top or wearing my hair like this isn't good optics. So, it's just like it. It's just.
I'm going to be back in Scotland in May, June. If anybody at Celtic wants to offer me a ticket in the corporate, please go right ahead. I have not been to a Celtic game since the Barcelona game. I would love to be there.
Absolutely. And listen, I do want to give a shout out to some of the Acsom community because I've been offered tickets at times to get back to games. It's been a long time since I've been able to not been able to get my season ticket back since giving it up a few years ago because of geographical location. So I'm right with Liam in terms of what that means, but it's really appreciate the fact that people do that. Let's see. Yep, Slabber and Cabbage. That's the wrong one. This is what happens when I'm.
He's not wrong though. He's not wrong.
He's not wrong. But I've got to be careful. This is the danger of hosting. And everybody says, "How do you get the comments to come up?" It's not easy. It's not easy. So Slabber and Cabbage comes out to say, "Is Sinicello playing?" And yes, he is. Nice, easy question. So he is come in, and Schmeichel's not on the bench. So we have Ross Doohan as the backup. Stephen Broadley comes in. It's an interesting point, actually. Corners will kill us today. Watch what happens. There has been a bit of scrutiny, Liam, when cross balls and corners come in. We look a bit weak, particularly at that far post. Some players have taken a bit of criticism. KT, Tuneke, maybe not being physical enough, and we know you get a physical game here at Ibrox. That's an area that we really need to be careful of, especially with maybe the slight inexperience of Dane Murray. He's got to make sure he stays disciplined. We need Scales to step up and be the leader at the back. We don't have Trusty. You're looking for the experienced players to say, okay, let's not give them an obvious weakness. But as an area of concern, we've lost a lot of goals that way. Not getting to the first ball after the cross.
Look, it's I've not made a secret of it between being on here and between the blog. I've made it clear that I think there is, there's a concerted effort to stop Celtic this season, and what you saw, one of the most blatant manifestations of it was when we played Hearts at Tynecastle. And the amount of free kicks that they were getting near our box and the amount of damage they were doing with those free kicks. I think this is where Dane Murray has got a huge role to play today, because you're going to need Scales and Tierney are going to have to basically talk him through this game and say, look, do not be intimidated. They're going to try everything to try and rattle that young boy. They're going to pull at his shirt. They're going to try and tug on it. They'll do everything they can to try and agitate him. And he needs to not take the bait. And I'm actually, in a bizarre, twisted way, I'm actually more confident that he could do that than Trusty could, because Trusty has shown that is a weakness he's got in his game, is that he reacts. Probably because in America, rightfully, you get a free kick for that, but over here, no chance.
No, exactly. Yep, fingers crossed. I mean, I think discipline is going to be important. I might bring this up. It's from Kieran. It says, if I can actually bring it up, as first 15 minutes is vital. It'd be great to turn the fans on him. So a bit of an endorsement for what you said there, Liam, which is great. Noel Doran comes in to say, hopefully Araujo's experience can help settle Big Dane. Yep, I think that's another great point as well. And again, Noel, another good point. They're making a few of them today. Here's hoping Big Scale stands up tall today and shuts them down. Agree with that. Liam, what have you made of Araujo since he's came in? Obviously, we've got him on loan. I don't believe we've got an option to buy him at the end of the season, and I don't want to talk too much about recruitment, but have you seen enough to say that he's a player that, depending on who's going to be at the helm next season, he's a player that
After that Kilmarnock game, if he told me he wanted me to be the mother of his children, I would have done it. Right? I'll be honest. Right.
May not be alone in that.
But yeah, it was. I think he's shown enough that definitely he's worth at least exploring the option of trying to get him for a, if they want something ridiculous like 15 million or whatever, they can forget it. But if they're willing to, come down to 6, 7, 8 million, I think that's the kind of money where it'd be worth it. Because I think him and a fully fit Alistair Johnson, it would be really interesting to see who would actually get the nod. Because I think there's not much to pick between them. There really isn't.
And there's also the element, Alistair Johnson, he's been with the club for a long time. He may be, getting too close to that point, but he wants to look at,
especially after the World Cup.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's traditionally quite a strong performer internationally. So, it could soften the blow if we do have to lose up there. However, I still think Alistair Johnson's got a ton to offer this club, and I would like to see him stay for a good time. I actually agree with a lot of people said he's almost got the captain material. Could be a natural successor to Calmack. I want to bring this up. Pauline McGahey. It's Martin O'Neill's birthday. We're going to win. Listen, it's written in the stars, isn't it? But unfortunately, I don't think sentimentality rather always works in our favour as much as we would like it to. But yes, I'm very happy 75th birthday to Mr. O'Neill.
74, he's not that old.
Is he 74? I thought he was 74. Yeah, I've aged him. He'll not forget. By the way, he'll not forgive me for that.
He probably feels about 90 after being in the Celtic job for a few months.
Well, I tell you, at 90 minutes, there's no doubt about that. But yes, many happy returns to the gaffer. Absolutely. Tim Billy comes in to say our team is too skinny, and I think I saw another comment which I was going to bring up. I can't see it now, but it was I think Rangers have got about 7 players over 6 foot, so we are going to have to show a physical side today. Again, agree with your point, Liam. Let's stay disciplined, but let's not be bullied. I think that's the key thing. Let's not be bullied. See, Milk Boy. I wonder if that's Casa Milk Boy. I was. A lot of people accuse me of not being in this case, but I was actually born and brought up in Croftfoot, which is stone's throw away from Casa Milk, and a lot of family there down Arnprior. So, but come on the hoops. And lots of flags there for supporting, which is good. That's the kind of flags we don't mind bringing up on here. That's not so bad. And let's see if we can get another couple of comments in here. Yeah, no, Doran comes in and say, "Come on, you boys in green." Absolutely. Come on, Celtic from Scorpion Rising. Yep. Right, there's Mr. C.
Feeling a lot of positivity here today.
I'm liking it. I'm trying to focus on the positivity because we need it, and we might not have reason to have it at half time or full time, Liam. So we may as well enjoy it as much as we can. It is going to be a tough game. Mr. Stevens says we're minutes away from some extreme mooding. Enjoy it and let's hope it's good. Absolutely, I like that. And yeah, Tony Cassidy, I want to bring in. Always good to see Tony on the chat. Nice speech at the Tommy Gemmell unveiling. Yeah, a couple of our boys were there. They sent some great pictures and coverage of it. I think it's been a long time going. Acsom has really supported the initiative, so really pleased to see that finally taking place, and hope that was a good spectacle for the Gemmell family as well. Well deserved. And I tell you, Liam, I don't know about you, but I would love to see the Celtic Way adorned with statues on either side of all the Celtic Way. The Lisbon Lions, Jockstein, just
Fergus McCann.
Absolutely. Why not? We've got that wonderful area. Why not do it? Kieran comes in to say, yeah, I'm getting a bit like this. Sickness is ramping up. Come on, you boys in green. I mean, this is... generally, when Paul John says, anybody able to cover the match, I'm like, yeah, I'll do it, until about 10 minutes before I'm due to go live, and I'm thinking, why did I do this? Why did I offer it? I'm feeling the nerves, and it's just adding stress on top of stress. Katie comes in, yep, I love this, Katie. Go Celtic. Yeah, look, I think it's great. I'm looking at the atmosphere. I can see the supporters there, Liam. And one thing I want to mention, the support, both home and away. I know there's been a bit of criticism of the atmosphere at Celtic Park. But you look at that Kilmarnock game, you look at the European game, you look at today, the fans are in great voice. We cannot understate how important the Celtic support is to this team. Former players have spoken about it, legends, they've all said it has an effect. It's not just
Rugby Park, it saved us. At Rugby Park, it saved us. Thursday night, it got us a result, even though it wasn't enough, but it was still a result. The first time we've ever beaten a team in Germany. And speaking of beating Huns, I think it's almost time for kickoff.
Liam
Sorry.
Knocking them out the park today. He's knocking them out the park, which is actually what I hope we do to the opposition today. So, listen, it's been enjoyable. Great being on with Liam. Look, we're feeling positive at the moment. Whether the game goes the way we want it to or it doesn't, we will be back at half-time and full-time. Really appreciate everybody who's joined us. We're over 1,000 strong on the live stream. Thanks, everyone. Hope everyone enjoys the game. Come on, the Hoops, and thanks for joining A Celtic State of Mind.
Hello.